Hello. Following our short film on exiting lockdown, which was aimed more at business owners, I received a number of requests for something more personal that could be shared with family and friends. So it is, I guess, it's exiting lockdown with purpose, but this time it's personal. Having said that, the core message remains the same. I said in the last film that I've heard people say that things will never be the same again. But I have to ask, is that really going to be the case? Because a lot of this is largely up to us as individuals. Certain changes will probably be enforced upon us. For example, rules on travel, the use of work and leisure spaces, and maybe compulsory health checks. But unless changes are made mandatory, we can very easily fall back into our old routines. So change will require some thought, some effort, and some understanding. Do not underestimate our ability to sleepwalk back into pre-COVID behaviour and find yourself months from now experiencing a sense of lockstalgia when you remember the good things that you experienced during lockdown, and then start asking yourself why you didn't maintain them as you probably promised yourself that you would. Although not generally foreseen, entering lockdown, or exiting lockdown rather, was always going to be more challenging than entering it. We witnessed anger on entering lockdown as freedoms were curtailed, but that dissipated quite quickly as we started to understand the severity of what we were all facing. Also, the restrictions were applied to all of us in the same way, more or less at the same time. As we exit though, restrictions are being lifted in a piecemeal fashion, in a way that we all have an opinion about and may not agree with. They're being lifted at different times on different activities in different ways, and that gives rise to comparative situations that may be regarded as unfair. My cricket mates felt it was unfair that tennis could restart but cricket couldn't. I know a nail bar owner that feels it was unfair that hairdressers could open but she couldn't. And also there are employees are feeling that it's unfair that they're being asked to return to the office while colleagues are not. But such perceived unfairness gives rise to anger, maybe further fueled by a media that creates headlines focused on the inevitable inconsistencies rather than the positive collective progress that we're making. Because there have been and continue to be incredible acts of friendship and cooperation. Communities have come together, individuals and organisations have gone above and beyond, and we're fortunate enough to live in a first world Western country where a government, irrespective of the party in power, is in a position to support millions of workers and businesses. But as we're entering lockdown, a key to our individual well-being comes from acceptance. An acknowledgement of what is happening and an understanding of what is within our control. In that acceptance lies our power, and we find control in acceptance and an ability to move forward, because there will be plenty more reasons to get angry if we allow ourselves to. Regional lockdowns will cause comparative anger. Perceived irresponsible behaviour by others will cause consternation, and the exposing of furlough fraudsters will infuriate us. But this is not in our control. What is in our control is the ability to stop, reflect and consider the aspects of our pandemic experience that we found positive and that we want to take forward. I've said for a long time that people should have stop doing lists rather than to-do lists. And one advantage of this pandemic is the enforced effecting of the stop doing list. Despite life constantly evolving and changing around us, habits and routines are hard to break. So we need to stop and think, were there things that you were doing pre-COVID that you weren't really enjoying and that you now realise you no longer need to do? Then consider whether there are things that you will have to start doing again, but you now realise they can be done in a better way. Affecting these changes are within your control. We're wired to create habits and routines. Every animal that's succeeded has done so because they could create and recognise what is a successful pattern. And we tend to be more productive and feel fulfilled if we have one. But it is easy to hold on to the old furniture, to the old routines, to the point where the only reason given for doing something is that we've always done it that way. So as we exit lockdown and life adopts its next phase of the new normal, now is an excellent time to review what you've not been able to do over the past months and think very carefully about whether certain pre-COVID activities should really be consigned to the now obsolete activity bin. Take the time to consider what has really worked during this pandemic, the changes that you've enjoyed, and what you would like to maintain and build upon. Then make sure you build it into the rhythm of your life to make it a new habit, part of a new routine, and include everyone in your home in that conversation. What is it that each one of your household has enjoyed, and how are you going to take that activity forward? If, as often been reported, you may now feel closer to your family, then think about how that has come about. Maybe it was the family walk, experimenting more at meal times, connecting with grandparents on Zoom, sharing more film nights, understanding more about your child's lessons, having special nights out while staying in, maybe the online quizzes and the gym sessions. It could be a myriad things. Lockdown may have also exposed issues in relationships you are now aware of and can now address, as well as reminding you of the good things that made you form those relationships in the first place. The crisis has forced us all to break habits and to innovate, but is it a case of things won't be the same again, or that they shouldn't be the same again? If so, how will you maintain those activities that have proved so beneficial? As I said, do not underestimate our ability just to sleepwalk back into pre-COVID behaviour. Exit lockdown with a personal purpose to minimise those future feelings of lockstalgia. And as I've always said, keep those stocks of goodwill, compassion and empathy replenished, because we are going to need them for some time to come. Thanks again for listening.